I don't know how much you know about these two ladies, but I'll give you a little bit of background and then we'll jump straight into questions. So Xiu is famous for her backstroke and recently won more than one gold medal at the Paralympics, and I think you've won 3 in total, right?
Yep.
Yeah. And then Theresa is famous for her breaststroke, holds many world records. Held, sorry, and won a bronze medal at the most recent Olympics.
Yeah. I think she's more known for her cats though.
Tell me more about that.
Too many cats.
I
3 too many.
3 is not too many. I did see your cats. Yes, I watched a couple of videos doing some research. They're very cute. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your cats before we jump into the swimming?
I have 3 cats and they are all adopted. And yeah, I want some more.
Do you have room for more?
There's always room for more.
Always room for more. Okay. So as I said, we are so honored to have you here today. And I think maybe a good place to start is if you could tell us about where your passion for swimming came from.
Well, I started when I was about 5, and that was just kind of for fun in the public pools with my family. You know, I think it's a very common thing for families to go and swim every weekend at the nearby pool. You know, and that was the same for my family. And it kind of graduated to something more when I was about 12, and a volunteer from the Singapore Disability Sports Council spotted me swimming with my dad and told him, I think she has potential, why don't you bring her to the upcoming swimming championships that's coming up and see how she does, you know. So he did that, and I did pretty well, and I joined the swimming program after that, and got into competitive swimming at 12, and yeah, and it really progressed from there.
Are you saying my story or our story is exactly the same?
Our stories are exactly
Okay. Yeah, so I don't have to repeat
It's
myself. It's
like
pretty
that,
much
yeah.
like this, yeah. But I have 2 elder brothers, so I was swimming with them. And then I got really bored at the baby pool, so my mom asked I asked my mom if I could join them, and she asked the coach. Yeah, so that's how I started swimming.
Okay.
But everything else
Similar,
is the
but yeah,
ish.
same but different.
Yeah.
So it's the family that inspired the first passion, and then you were spotted, and your mom inquired.
No, I was spotted as well.
Oh, you were both
Yeah.
spotted. Okay.
But
So-
yeah.
Do you want to talk about that journey then, in terms of what brought you to the Paralympic swimming team? So how did you end up representing Singapore?
Started from 12, and you kind of make like small goals towards bigger goal, you know. And for us, or for me, it was just kind of getting better than the previous competition. So it just makes more improvements, and I didn't really like set out to want to get to the Paralympics. It wasn't like a main goal for me. It seemed really far at the time, but yeah. So I just made like little goals towards getting faster and faster, and before I knew it, I was at Athens.
When she was at Athens, I just started competitive swimming. It started, after the competition, they asked if I wanted to join the elite team, and so we started with the elite team. Initially, training was just 4 times a week, but I remember my very first lesson. I was sleeping right in the car when my dad picked me up and sent me back. It started off tiring, and eventually went on to become 12 sessions a week, 13 sessions a week, before Beijing 2008 Paralympic Games. Yeah, so I think that was also how we eventually worked our way to the Paralympics. It's just through being very consistent training, and always wanting to better my previous times.
And it was quite a jump. I felt like I used to train 3 times a week, and every session would have a different coach, because at that time it was always all volunteer coaches. And from jumping from that to 12, 13 sessions a week was not funny. It was was exhausting, and there were a lot of things that suddenly you felt like I have no time for, you know. But you also see the need to do that because practically everyone else is doing the same kind of sessions, and if you want to keep up or you want to be better, you have to at least do the same as what they're doing.
So one of the motivating factors for both of you was making sure that you were improving your time over and over again, right? Which led to more sessions and further fueling your passion to beat the previous record.
Yes.
Initially, it started more as like extrinsic motivation. So I went training because my parents sent me, or I went training because the coach was expecting me. I went training because of something. But eventually, after many years, it started to be intrinsic. It was I went training because I wanted to improve. I wanted to do something better. Yeah.
So what are some of the highlights then? Because I mean, both of you have been to and represented Singapore in more than one Paralympic. So can you talk us through some of the highlights?
I remember Beijing. Beijing was probably my most, as in before Rio, Beijing was my most memorable games. I was pretty young then. I was 16 years old, and then I've been to other international competitions, but nothing is like the Olympic and the Paralympic village. Maybe I can. It's almost like the Google of officers. the Olympics is the Google.
That's everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
So
there's a post office. There's a.
There are food stands everywhere. There's like yogurt is somewhere, coffee everywhere, and it's
You're
just,
right. That sounds like.
And it's just the atmosphere of everybody who has worked their hardest to get to where they are. It's very nice being in a place with like-minded individuals, and everybody just wants to go there to compete and also to be.
I mean, it's just an experience in itself, to be honest. First of all, I don't know another place that I can go where I see everybody else who has a disability, and not just a disability, but like everyone else is an elite athlete. You know, it's a very unique situation that I don't find many other places. You know, and it's a real privilege to be there, and you feel the atmosphere. It's not tense or really competitive unless it's in the pool or like the competition arena. But
Right
it's
before the races.
friendly, it's friendly and normal basically, you know.
So it's better than normal.
Yeah, better than a little bit better.
So the highlight is really just being there and soaking up the atmosphere, and as you say, being surrounded by other athletes, and not only just athletes, but yeah, exactly.
You kind of diverted from the question. No, but the other highlights would also be, for me, it would be knowing that I was part of the Paralympic movement in Singapore, where it started off as being, we started off as being in the home section of the papers, not even in the sports section. And slowly, eventually, Singaporeans began to recognize that what we were doing was should also be under sports. And then after Beijing, after the wins, then we got a bit more recognition, and then last year with the ASEAN Para Games, and this year with Rio. So we've come a long way. Like, people in the streets now understand what is the Paralympics, they know what para sports is, and I think we are both very grateful to be part of this.
So you've moved from local to front page news. That's a big highlight. It really is. The fact that everybody knows your name, right?
Sometimes people call me Theresa.
Yeah.
and then she gets copied too.
Yeah, why? No, but it's really something to see yourself in the sports section compared to seeing yourself in the home section, because you feel like, I felt, at the time I was still young, so I felt like, as long as I make it to the papers, it doesn't matter where they put me. But you realize that there is a certain importance in correctly labeling it, because if you put us in the home section, people are not going to think we are real sports, you know. And gradually, finally, acknowledging the fact that we are sports, we are considered sports, athletes, yeah.
And what was it, do you think, that changed so that relabeling, the use of the right words,
I think it was
calling
a lot
you
of,
athletes?
It was different people working together. It's not really like, I didn't feel like it was really the reporter's fault. It was more like probably the editors felt like no, you shouldn't put them there, they don't belong there or something, you know. it's a chain, and sometimes it just works out that way, that some people don't believe that you belong where you are. And I think it took a lot of hard work from both sides. We had to prove, we had to prove our results, and all our other teammates, and then the reporters were there also pushing our stories out, those who believed in us also. It's a real team effort, I think.
That was a long time ago. I wasn't even sure if I was reading the papers yet. Yeah.
So are there any lessons or discoveries that you learned about yourself along the way?
So many. I feel like I'm who I am largely because of swimming. Like swimming has given me everything good in my life. I've learned a lot. Like I've gained a big group of my friends through sports. But I think this year itself has taught me to really trust the process. At the start of the year, I wasn't that confident because I felt that even though I was already doing like 12 sessions, I still felt that I was not training enough. And I think it's just a kind of psychological pressure on myself because for some people, no matter how much you do, it's never enough, and sometimes I felt like that. So it was important for me along the way to learn how to trust myself, trust my coach, trust what we were doing, and just train and not worry about anything else. Yeah, so I think that was one of the main points I learned this year.
I kind of learned the same kind of thing, really copycat. Trusting and believing, I think, in myself mostly. Because I like the trust that I placed in the team was already kind of there. I kind of always left it to the team to lead me, and the part that was missing was my trust in myself, believing in myself, that was missing. So a little bit of background. I was in Athens, Beijing, London, and Rio. And in Beijing, I narrowly missed the bronze by 0.7 seconds. And that was like kind of like my world came crashing down, kind of. And it was really bad, yeah. And that was like one of the milestones that really shook my confidence, and I had a really hard time recovering from that and building confidence from that. And but that was also the period where I learned to change my mindset in going towards more towards happiness. So before that I was very focused on just going training and going with the flow and not really and just kind of pushing beyond and not really caring about whether it made me happy or not. And then after Beijing, I realized that I wasn't as happy as I could be, and so I changed my mindset to do things because I wanted to do it, and more towards what made me happy. And that what made me happier, it didn't allow me to swim faster. So there's always that striking a balance between what makes you happy but what makes you better. And for me, that was what I learned in the past 8 years, and slowly building confidence and the belief in myself again. Yeah.
And after Beijing, you took about a year off,
yeah,
right?
About
so,
9 months.
Okay.
I went to powerlifting to try it out.
To try something else.
Yeah, try a new sport.
And what is it, do you think, that kind of changed, that said, okay, I can go back to swimming and I now am confident in myself?
At the time, it wasn't really still that point, but it was the fact that after 9 months, I was at a point where I needed to decide whether to go back to swimming or not. And if I wanted to go back to swimming, I had to give up powerlifting because powerlifting would make me too heavy for swimming. So I had to give up one or the other. And so I was thinking, powerlifting made me quite happy, and it was a new environment. And I had to be in a new environment because I felt like swimming was a very negative atmosphere to be in at the moment when I first left Beijing. So after 9 months, it took time to kind of get the positive back in my life. And once I felt like I was ready, I had to make a decision whether to go back to swimming, and I felt like that I had more to give to swimming, and I felt like it was time to give it another shot. Yeah.
So in all the articles I read, it always talks about your parents, and they seem to have been very supportive in both cases. Do you want to tell us more about how they fuel your passion for swimming and what you do?
Personally, for me, I think I work a different way. I work when people don't micromanage what I do every day. So what they did to support me was they just took a step back and they trusted me to do whatever I wanted to do. So I was in secondary school at the time, and honestly, I already wasn't a very good student. But they didn't nag at me, they didn't force me to have to study, even though such a large emphasis is placed on education in Singapore. They gave me the freedom of choice to choose to swim more, and they understood that the Paralympics only comes every 4 years, whereas I could study, if I failed my O-levels, which I didn't, I could always redo it like the year after. So for them, really, it was just largely being there and agreeing with my decisions.
For me, I'm a little bit, we are different people because I need the push. I'm a little bit less motivated. So my parents had to kind of push me to training and make sure that I get there. But for me, the easiest part comes after I leave the house. So like they have to wake me up and then
They have to kick you out.
Yeah, they have to get me out of the house, and once I'm out, I'm fine. You know. And my dad always sent me to training in the mornings and picks me up after that. So when I go to trainings at 6:30, he would drop me off at the pool and then jog around the pool. So it was kind of a team effort. So I helped him exercise and he helped me get to training. And it was routine. So I worked well with routine, and so I just kind of kept with that routine for a while. And my mom was always there. Like when I get home, there's always food on the table and healthier options. And I think just generally also being there for me, and they also really supported my decisions. I went to Temasek Poly after secondary school for a semester, but I had to make a decision to quit school after that to focus on full-time training. So that's also something that I think a lot of the parents in Singapore may not necessarily agree with because of the education system, but they trusted me and allowed me to make my own decisions, and they've allowed me to be as independent as I can be.
Now, as the audience here is all Googlers, I wanted to kind of switch gears a little bit before handing it out to the audience to ask questions. So in terms of technology, are there any types of assistive technology that you use to make your day-to-day lives easier?
I actually like to use Google Maps.
Okay.
Like one of the things, especially when you think about accessibility in Singapore, one of the things that I do maybe different from other people, able-bodied people, is that when I go to a new place, I Google Map the location, and then I go to satellite view, and then I zoom all the way in so I can see if it's accessible. So that helps a lot. Like I wish it was everywhere, and even inside like buildings, taking like a 3D tour of a place, that would like help a lot of people, because it's really hard sometimes to define accessibility for different people. So for me, what might be accessible may not be accessible for someone else. So it's clearer when you can see it, And so I like Google Maps, satellite.
I think for me, because my hands are like a bit clogged, so I don't really type properly. So what's good for me is like the voice functions. Talk to them. But I think sometimes it doesn't understand the Singapore accent as well.
Don't worry, it doesn't understand my accent.
So I'll have to read it out, like backspace, and then I'll do it again.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to train us on a few more accents.
I think like the world has changed so much. There's a lot, it's made it a lot more accessible for so many people,
And technology is really wonderful.
Yeah, like that day, where was it? Was it Rio? We saw this like technology on the phone where you can use your eyes.
Like something, Samsung phone.
Like you can track your eyes.
Yeah, retina.
Yeah, pretty cool. For those who cannot use their hands or.
And I really like the dinosaur. whenever there's no internet. The space bar one.
So what do the next 12 months have in store for you?
Well, I took a year off to train full time, so I'll be heading back to school in January for 4 or 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
Then in the meantime, I will still be training, but I probably wouldn't be going like a full-time load. Then once I graduate, I will start training full-time, and we have ASEAN Para Games and World Champs next year. So it's still back to the pool. Yeah.
Back to the pool. No school for me.
Just training.
You're doing my homework.
Do you want to fail? I probably will go back to swimming for a couple of years, but Tokyo is still unsure yet.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up now to the floor. If anyone has any questions, do come up.
Can ask anything.
There, thanks for coming in. I've got a two-part question. Firstly, how would you rate Singapore as an accessible city as a wheelchair user? Obviously, you know, there's newer parts, new buildings like this one, which are designed with accessibility in mind, but then there's parts of town like Chinatown, which I can imagine must be hard to get around. And then the second part of the question is, you know, you've been fortunate to travel around the world to compete. How does Singapore rank against other cities in terms of accessibility, and which city would you say is top of the list?
What would you rank it?
I would say it's actually not so bad. Like, I don't know whether it's because I'm familiar with the country and how to get around.
Give it a 7.75.
Yeah, that's very specific. I would say it's about there. Yeah, it's not so bad. I've traveled alone to London and around UK, and we once traveled together with some friends to Australia, and I would say Australia is really good because like in some of the like national parks where I wouldn't expect a clean, accessible toilet, they had it, you know, and it was really clean. And like for me, I mean for everybody, being able to go to the washroom is a basic necessity, you know. And for me, it's just that extra thing about worrying whether it's clean, whether it's accessible, whether there's someone inside, whether, you know, there's so many things, and whether there's one available at all. And sometimes you have to be a bit creative with toilets situations. But Singapore's not bad, especially in transport system. The MRT is really accessible.
I'm waiting to see what I'm giving it.
Okay, can. UK is really good. The tram is not very accessible, but they have options, like you can call for assistance and stuff like that. There's still no perfect country that I've been to. Singapore honestly comes pretty close, but it's because I am probably used to it. Yeah.
In places where we're used to, it's quite good. But I think 10 minus 7.75, whatever that's missing, I think it comes from like the older places like Chinatown, Tanjong Pagar, Tiong Bahru, and just some areas where the steps are not, like from a bare eye you can't really tell, but if you sit on a wheelchair and it hits something, you might fall over. So I would say we are actually pretty good. It's just like the smallest of things. And yeah, the train's very good. All the trains have lifts, buses have ramps. I don't like drains. That's another thing I don't like. Yeah, we get caught in drains as well.
Drain,
Yeah.
what do you call that? The
Drains,
holes
yeah.
in the
Yeah.
drainage. Yeah. So sometimes our wheels are really small, they get stuck.
But the last we went to Pasadena in 2014, I felt that it was really good. Like everything had wheelchair access to it. But I'm not sure about it now. Yeah.
There's still like accessibility for us, and still certain types of accessibility for maybe someone on a motorized chair might be different. And like we are lucky, we are more mobile. We can get in and out of our chairs quite easily. Yeah, but that's from our perspective, it's pretty okay.
Do you think driverless technology will become mainstream soon? I need a car.
I hope so, because I don't drive.
We need assistive driving devices.
Yeah,
Telling my family for years I'm waiting for driverless cars.
I will use that.
Yeah.
So, how much do you think your disability influenced the path that you took and your passion for swimming and where you are now?
I think if I was not born with a disability, I probably wouldn't have come down this path. Which is why I also like to say that I'm thankful for my disability, because it's opened so many doors that may not have been opened for me if I was not a person on a wheelchair or a person with disability. Yeah.
I think about it like if I was not disabled, would I still be doing sports? And I think yes, but maybe not swimming, maybe something else. I feel like I'm a very active person and competitive person by nature. So I do enjoy sports, but maybe I wouldn't, I would just be like in national level, as in not even national, like school level or something. But I probably wouldn't get this far.
I have two follow-up questions for each one of you. First, for you, I like the story about the happiness and Beijing, right? So what did you feel when you then eventually won the next medal? Like, how was that? What was that feeling? Can you describe that?
Disbelief, but mostly relief. Like, it's, and like throughout the whole race, when I was swimming it, I knew that at any time if I had given up, it would have been over, you know. But it was just that fact that there was the importance of holding on throughout the whole race and not giving up at any part that really stuck in my mind and was so important, because like I just know how close I think the next person was, and a slip up from me would have meant Beijing all over again, you know. And yeah, but when I touched the wall, it was disbelief and relief. Yeah.
Sorry for the stupid question, but I'm not a competitive swimmer.
Right,
So
yeah.
when you touch the wall, you directly know that...
Yeah, it's on the wall, on the time thing.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I turned it. Oh yeah, I didn't know when I touched. I had to look at the clock.
Oh, it's not like when you touch it, it buzzes and that means you won.
Like
To request.
Like the wall
Look at me, I'm
vibrates.
not competitive.
Maybe
not
she
sporty,
could
so-
tell that she won based on all of us shouting like, ah!
Yeah. I could hear that.
And for you, you spoke about the newspapers, right? And the journey from the local pages to the front page. So how do you use that front page popularity now outside of sports or maybe outside of your disability, just to maybe make other people aware of things? Do you, I don't know, I mean, you come here obviously, but what else do you do around that?
I like to say with great power comes great responsibility. So we're very, what? Oh, Spider-Man? Yeah. So I can't get my thoughts together. Yeah, and like now we are, not just myself, but Theresa also. I think as athletes, our most important role is to produce results. Because only with results will other people join our fight to fight with us when it comes to things like inequality or other things. When we get results, then we are in the news and people see that there are gaps in the community and try to bridge it. So we, on the other hand, after the results, we will try to join them in this fight. Not like it's a fight lah, but we will try to join them to promote more awareness, to go to talks and to try, I wouldn't exactly call us inspirational, but try to impact people with our stories and just to
All of us would call it inspirational.
Thank you.
You both talked about how sort of important it was throughout your journey, to such great achievements, and to be kind of self-motivated. And I just wondered, how different does it feel to beat a world record and then to beat your own world record?
What if my own record is the world record?
But when, how different was that, beating your own world record at Rio this year? How different did that feel to, when you set the record in the first place, when you beat someone else's record?
I think getting a better timing is always a joy, regardless of whatever record. So as long as the timing that I did today is better than what I did a couple of months ago, I'm happy. I'm terribly happy.
It is a different feeling when you break a world record and when you break a personal best. At the time when I was breaking world records, not at the moment, but at the past, and, it was not really something that I was focused on. So it was just like, oh yay, I broke a world record. But when I, but it was more of the fact that I was getting faster that I was happy about, and then the world record just came naturally, I guess. And like even in Rio when I swam my finals, or my heats, it was the fastest I've swam ever. So it was my personal best. I didn't break a world record, but I was 4 seconds faster than my last personal best timing, and that was better than any of the world records I ever gotten. Yeah, because it was many years of not getting faster, and then finally getting 4 seconds off like that. It's quite a great feeling.
First and foremost, thank you for what you have done for our country. You put it on the world map. It's all their effort, but we as a nation get to share your glory. So thank you for that. Secondly, the team is about accessibility, but I think, I don't know about everyone here, but this is my first time in a room with athletes that are at the top of their game and beating world records, winning gold medals. So could you give us a feel of that access into when you were competing for the very first time and you enter the pool or you enter the arena where you are competing with the top athletes in the world? That feeling that you had, how did you motivate yourself? How did you tell yourself versus the last time where you and over there and through confidence? What is it that for mentally you prepare yourself? So it's not just a physical thing, but more of like your mental preparation.
So the first games compared to the recent games. So I was reminded of this by my psychologist, like maybe 2 years ago. So I was telling her that I'm not sure if I can do it because so many things have happened since Beijing, so many ups and downs and good things and bad things. So I didn't know if I was able to. But then she told me to just go into my final race with the mentality that I had in my first race. So for the very first race, I just wanted to go in and do my best. For like in the recent few races, I've just been worried about whether I can do it, whether I can get a better timing. It's just a lot of worry. And so she told me to bring it back to when I first started, because that's when people race the best, when they have no worries, when they're relaxed. And I needed to adopt that kind of mindset into my final race in order for it to translate into better physical movements as well. So like the psychological and physical part is it's very linked, even though we don't really see it. But I don't know how it's like magic, but if I'm too excited before a race, like my race really wouldn't turn out good. So it's really she said this phrase in Chinese is like 山还是山，水还是水. So now regardless of what it is, a mountain is still a mountain, a water is still water. So swimming pool is still the swimming pool. Just go in and do your very best, and that's how I went in on my final race. Yeah.
My most latest race in my 100 breaststroke felt so worlds different from any other race I've swum, because I had felt the most relaxed ever. So before, like 3 months before the Rio 100 breast race, I had a lot of worries. I had a lot of trouble sleeping, and that, yeah, because we're roommates most of the time, so she knows.
In the middle of the night, she's like, DX, what happens if I...
What if I don't do it?
What if I
still love me? Then...
No, I had to be a psychologist, like, shh, stop thinking about it.
So just like 3-4 months of that every night, it was very tiring, and it was like how you know that how you want, like if you want to get a perfect scenario, you know you have to do this and do this and do this, right? But so if it's like a game, you know how those games where you want to hit there's a bar going up and down and you hit it at the right time. Yeah, those games. So it always feels like that. It feels like a lever, and I always feel like I have to be in the middle, and it was just very tiring because I felt like I was over nervous, and I was like, no, I'm fine, I don't care about it anymore.
After like a few days later, she's like, I don't care about anything
Yeah,
anymore.
like whatever happens, I don't care.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, I'll be like, I can't sleep again. It's just constantly going back and forth and having to find that middle ground and being confident but not so worried about the results, you know. And so when the day came, the night before, I slept at 7 p.m. or I went to bed at 7 p.m. just to try and fall asleep and have enough hours of sleep before my race, and managed to do that after drifting in and out of sleep again. And then the morning I woke up, I went to the call room, and I wasn't nervous anymore. I was calm, I was happy, I was relaxed, and I swam my fastest race ever. Yeah.
Hi, both of you. I'm Neeta. Thank you so much for being here. It's such a pleasure to see you guys in person. We've been on a WhatsApp chat. What I wanted to ask is, since you guys came in, I've seen a very infectious energy and a camaraderie between the two of you. So I wanted to ask, like, does your friendship also go a step further where you're trying to motivate each other or be there for each other? Because at Google, we all work in teams, and I think for us, that team bonding and that team collaboration is important. So how does it work with the two of you? Do you guys fight at all, or
There's a reason why
it's
we're
all
sitting
good?
so far apart from each
See at
other.
distance?
Yeah. Stay there.
Of course, I think we have moments. It's not perfect.
I had to tell you my story of when I first met Theresa.
Okay, wait, I tell first. So it was, I mean, it's really hard to find someone you can connect with so well, and it's good because we can connect, and it's a good chemistry. We can just sit in silence, it's fine, or we can talk, we can judge. Okay. Yeah, but it's important to be able to find someone you can click with, for sure. Much easier than if someone you don't like, right?
Well, you didn't like me at the start.
She was very noisy.
So when I first joined the team, I was 12 years old. I was a very excitable young thing.
Stop.
And she, on the other hand, was already like swim queen. She was like, she's a lot older than me. Okay. Okay, maybe 5 years is not that much. Yeah, but when I first went swimming, she would be with the older people talking, or else I would be at the side talking to like the younger ones. And we never really became friends or spoke to each other till we became roommates. I started swimming competitively in 2004, but we only became roommates in like September 2005. So that was an entire year of not talking to each other. But it was only when I became her roommate and started chattering too much in the room, then I melted her ice cold heart. And then from then onwards, we've been roommates ever since. So it's really nice to have somebody along with you on this journey, because I'm not perfect. On some days when I really cannot find any motivation to train, and I see that she's training, I have to go. On some days, I feel like I have to drag her, like literally drag her to training. So it's really nice just having company along the way, and it's nice knowing that you're not doing this alone.
I mean, when you go to, like, you're gonna face shit, and then you know there's someone there gonna face the same thing with you.
It's like in the morning when I first wake up from bed, we're like, I hope it rains.
Yeah, we're texting each other like,
And we can only tell each other, we can't tell like, coach,
yeah.
I hope it rains, coach.
Like, it looks dark. You think it's gonna rain? Can I check NEA?
Let's lie in bed for 5 more minutes.
Yeah. It's not
Okay,
gonna rain.
time
I'm
to get
leaving
up.
now.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask a follow-up question to that. We talk a lot about work-life balance here at Google, right? And both of you train so very, very hard. What do you guys do for fun?
There's a lot of things to do. Go out.
I think it's not that tough for us because we find fun in the work that we do. So it's good to enjoy what you do and find people that you can relate and connect with. But then for us, when we have free time, it's normally not just the two of us. We normally hang out with other people because, I don't know. Because we see each other too much. Yeah.
We have other friends, I promise. We do hang out with a lot of other friends. We have like mutual groups, and we hang out together, dinner, or just a movie, or just hanging out.
Yeah, you have to see the amount of WhatsApp group chats you have in
Yes.
common.
Oh, yeah, how many?
Go find it. Guess it.
You want to
Anybody
make a
wants to
guess? How many WhatsApp groups we have in common? That's so low. Okay, we have. Go higher.
Higher?
Yeah, we have 83 groups in common.
But I wouldn't even be able to keep up with that. Conversations. I wouldn't even be able to keep up with 83 groups. My
That's so
goodness.
many.
That's too many. I think it was like 50 something the last we checked.
Yeah, it's grown.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing your story. It's really, really inspirational. My question is there any technology that has improved your quality of life in terms of accessibility? And if not, what areas would you like to see improvement on?
Driverless technology.
I think it got stuck there on Family and Friends Day. I just noticed it. It's one of the YouTube Kids
Like-
ones.
Does my smart drive count? I can move around pretty easily and fast, but I recently bought this thing, like extra wheel at the back of my chair that can connect and disconnect, and it helps me go up ramps. And so it's like a motor
wheel.
Yeah, so I just push once and it will continue.
Is it like a Segway-ish?
Not really. Segway you gotta lean, right? No, this one doesn't lean. So it helps to allow me to move on carpets also, because it's not so easy to push a wheelchair on carpets. Like little things like that doesn't necessarily make the chair heavier, that much heavier, but it adds that extra help that I need sometimes.
I think it's a problem finding chairs, like even the most basic of things like wheelchair, maybe they're not, like for us, wheelchairs that are at the same time slick, but at the same time still have functions that will help with our lives. So everything's really bulky.
The lighter the chair is, the easier it is to push, but the lighter it is, the more expensive it is. And that can be problematic for like the poorer countries. So a lot of times you find that the chairs there are massive and hospital chairs, basically. And it's not easy to push. It's basically meant for someone to push you. And then you remove that independent factor, and then they have to depend on other people to push them, and then it just becomes like a downward spiral.
Hi, thanks for coming, Xiu and Theresa. And I just saw on the news that Xiu, you just came from SMU, right? There was a scholarship named after you in your honor. You were wearing the exact same clothes, so congratulations. I know, I'm like, it's like 1 hour ago or something. So I actually have two questions, but I suppose there's only time for one. One actually relates to disabilities, and the other one is actually Singapore in general. So the first one was around, and you don't have to answer this if it's sensitive, but during the Paralympics, Olympics, or post rather, there was a lot of celebrations in Singapore, and also a lot of chatter and talk about the monetary reward and the discrepancies. I'm not sure if this was already covered, but discrepancies between both. And just wanted to get some of your thoughts on how you feel about that. I think you were quoted in the papers as well, but it would be great to hear some of your personal thoughts and reflections on the discrepancies and how that affects, or whether you think that's fair, what you would like to see changing going forward in Singapore, and the perception of Olympians versus Paralympians. And then the second thing was, it's very stark or very interesting that swimming seems to be the sport in Singapore that earns us medals, both for able-bodied athletes and Paralympians, and kind of just wanted to get your view on how we can replicate this success for other sports in Singapore as well.
I'm going to touch the first question first. I mean, the easiest way to say is, if you were a Paralympian and you had gotten a gold medal, and your friend is an Olympian who got a gold medal, and both of you have gone through the same kind of trainings and basically gotten the same things, how would you feel if you got different amounts, So that's the way that it allows you to feel how I guess we would feel. But at the same time, it's also not something that we worry about, because it's not something we can control, And I think in a lot of in life, like in my whole life, it's always kind of not worrying about something you cannot control. So you control what you can control, and if you control something you cannot control, it just makes you more frustrated. So I think it's also a lot of like, they like to compare it to, because Paralympic sports is not so competitive, so they like to see, like, I think one of the ministers said that or something, and that's not really a fair comparison, because there are different sports with different levels of competitive level, or not competitive level, like different levels of numbers of competition, and swimming has a lot of competitors, a lot of swimmers, but then if you compare another sport, maybe it has like two-thirds. Are you giving that sport lesser, even though it's able-bodied sport? No, right? And so I think that's not really a fair comparison to make. The main point is that they probably don't value person with disability as highly as an able-bodied person. That's how I feel. Like I feel that's the base, the foundation of it is why they feel that we don't deserve as much, even though they may not realize that they're feeling that way.
And they don't realize that normally people get their knowledge or the information from like papers or from things. So if the people at the top, not exactly the top, but if people don't see us as equals, when people read the news and they see that they're not equal, they would also start to have this mindset that, oh, maybe they are not equal, which is a bit painful. But we don't take it, as in we don't take the money thing to heart, because we're really not doing this for the money. Yeah. So maybe you don't have to increase our amount, but maybe
bring down the Olympic.
I didn't say that. Yeah.
And what's that?
How to replicate the
yeah.
success of swimming?
I don't know. Like swimming,
I feel like I want to try it.
yeah. I mean, swimming, like I think we can achieve a lot more because we have a lot of events to win medals in. So like if I have like 8 events that I can get medals in, and bowling has only 1, you know, it's like not comparative, not very comparative.
But that's not true. Actually, it's just that for Olympic sports, we are good at swimming, but like bowling doesn't have the Olympics, but we have very good bowlers.
Like world level bowlers.
Our bowlers like win world championships.
But they just don't have it in the Olympics.
Yeah, they just don't have the Olympics. And I think in order to be a good athlete, it comes from the culture of the sports itself. So some people, like say for swimmers, we have a lot of swimmers to look up to. We know what they do, we know the science behind it and everything. But maybe for some other sports, some of the athletes are just, they think that what they're doing is the way the athlete should do, but it actually isn't the way. So I think it's really the culture of the sport and how the athlete grows up in the sport. Like I wouldn't say we are super athletes, but at least we wake up at 5, we sleep on time, we sleep at 10. But there's some athletes who go for supper and sleep at 2 in certain sports, and maybe that's why they're not.
I think that's also very individual.
Yeah, it's very individual.
Yeah.
So I can't tell whether it's like from an individual or from
sport,
a country or from a
but
sport.
I think that it's also because swimming is so marketable and so high profile. For whatever.
We're outdoors here all the time.
Yeah.
That helps, right?
Oh yeah, and there's a lot of pools in Singapore, you know, and it helps when a country invests more in a certain sport, you know, and like triathlon is getting kind of hot, and a lot more people competing in triathlon, and it really depends on what people know is out there and what you're exposed to, you know.
So I just wanted to say a huge thank you to both of you for coming in.
And now